3 years into my marriage, I finally became pregnant with a Hayes family child. He was the Hayes family's sole heir, and the entire family was desperate for this successor. Martha and Lydia, who had been distant, suddenly became exceptionally solicitous towards me. I thought this was the end of hardship, the beginning of good fortune, but I inadvertently overheard Julian's conversation with Martha. Once the child is born, she'll be stripped of all assets, and the child will be given to Lydia to raise. Lydia was Julian's sister-in-law. It wasn't until I opened his diary that I realized he had married me and gotten me pregnant simply to give her a child that belonged to them. All this time, I had merely been a vessel for childbirth. Julian laid the prenatal checkup report on the table, his expression calm. Lydia's constitution is weak, she can't endure the hardships of childbirth. This child is one the Hayes family has waited 3 years for. Once you give birth, the credit will be yours. I will give you a sum of money, enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. 3 sentences, not a single one showing a husband's tenderness. Every word was a cold transaction. I stared at the thin sheet of paper, every data point on it announced the arrival of a new life, yet my tears felt like they were tearing through the page. My heart had been full of joy, believing this was the fruit of our love. But he told me it was merely a gift he had prepared for another woman. I took a deep breath, clutching the paper tightly, forcing myself to look up and meet his gaze. For one child, you think you can buy out my marriage and my dignity? Seeing me cry, Julian frowned slightly and instinctively stepped forward, intending to embrace me. I sharply recoiled, pressing my palm firmly against his unyielding chest. Julian, you're dreaming. This child is mine, and no one will take him from me. Julian's face instantly darkened, the warmth in his eyes swallowed by icy coldness. Clara, don't be ungrateful and push your luck. We both know exactly what you hope to gain by marrying into the Hayes family. Quietly give birth to the child, take the money, and leave. It will be better for both of us. Even if you worked your entire life, you might not see a fraction of this money. You're not losing anything. Not losing anything? Those 2 words were laced with venom, sharply piercing my ears. I was so furious my vision blurred. Julian, that's my flesh and blood, carried for 10 months. It's not a commodity that can be measured in numbers. Look into your heart and tell me, when you planned this marriage, what did you see me as? A vessel for childbirth? Or a stepping stone for your love? I slammed the diary, which chronicled his sordid affair with his sister-in-law, directly into his face. Julian watched the scattered pages fall to the floor, his brows furrowed deeply. He snapped his fingers, and Benson immediately placed a document in front of me. Clara, sign it, or don't even think about leaving Hayes for the rest of your life. You choose. The document contained pre-drafted divorce papers and terms for me to be stripped of all assets, with the child's custody explicitly granted to Julian. I was so terrified I felt a chill run through me. Julian gripped my chin, forcing me to lower my head and read every word clearly. You know, in Portside, no one dares to offend the Hayes family. A seemingly light threat, yet it sent a shiver down my spine. I stared at Julian, letting tears stream down my cheeks. The power of the Hayes family truly left me with nowhere to turn for help. He was determined to give this child to Lydia, leaving me with no room to resist. In that moment, I loathed myself and despised this cutthroat elite circles even more. Be obedient, sign the document. Once the child is born, you'll be free. Take the money and live the life you want. Freedom. Yes, I once thought marrying him was the beginning of happiness. Now, it seems I merely stepped into another cage. Julian and I had been married for 3 years, and everyone envied me for marrying into the top elite circles, becoming Mrs. Hayes. He wasn't exactly tender towards me, but we were respectful, and he gave me enough dignity. I believed that if I tried hard enough, I could eventually warm his heart. But I forgot that Lydia had already taken residence in his heart. All his tenderness was reserved for his nominal sister-in-law. Julian, I won't sign. Julian's grip on my chin tightened, the force so great my bones ached. The pain left me breathless, and the hole in my heart grew wider and wider. Clara, don't be foolish. It's not worth it for a child. Lydia will treat him as her own, and he'll be a Hayes family heir. He won't suffer any hardship. I knew Julian was ruthless and decisive in business, long accustomed to measuring everything by profit. But I thought I was different, that our child was different. In the end, in his heart, only Lydia was irreplaceable. My child's mother can only be Clara. I broke free from his grasp, my words clear and firm. Lydia was the widow of Julian's elder brother, Arthur. After died in a car accident, she had continued to live with the Hayes family. Julian, under the pretense of looking after his sister-in-law, was meticulously attentive to her. At first, I simply considered him loyal and righteous, never thinking much of it. Even when Lydia constantly called him away with various excuses, I only felt she was lonely and pitiful, needing companionship. She clung to Julian at all times. It was always a headache or chest pain, insomnia or nightmares. No matter how flimsy the excuse, Julian believed her implicitly. It wasn't until I became pregnant that the joy in his eyes made me believe, for a time, that he was finally going to return to our family. But the bipolar disorder diagnosis pushed Julian's guilt and protectiveness towards Lydia to their peak. She escalated her provocations. A single phone call was enough for Julian to abandon an international meeting and rush back to be with her. Later, whenever Julian spent the night in my room, Lydia would have an episode. Self-harm, hunger strikes, crying through the night, her tactics were endless. And while Julian expressed helplessness, his feet had already carried him to her room. I had cried and protested too, but Julian could always soothe me with a few words. "Clara, she's just sick. Arthur just passed, and she can't cope alone. Lydia is pitiful, if we give her more care, she'll get better." It wasn't until I found that diary and discovered he had orchestrated this marriage just to give Lydia a child. I thought Julian was simply deluded and would eventually come to his senses. But he didn't. In that moment, I finally saw clearly that in his heart, I couldn't even compare to a single strand of Lydia's hair. I looked at the divorce papers. The terms were so harsh they lacked any shred of humanity. Just yesterday, I had been caressing my belly, imagining Julian holding the baby and smiling after he was born. In just one night, everything had turned upside down. "Julian, I'll sign. To live. One must live first, to even think about the future." Julian's lips curled into a faint smile, and he gestured for Benson to hand me the pen. "Clara, I knew you were the most sensible and understanding. I promise, this money will be substantial, you won't be treated unfairly." I had heard such promises for 3 years, yet I had never truly received anything. Not even a shred of sincerity. I let out a cold laugh, then lowered my head and signed my name on the agreement. "On the day the child is born, have her come to the local hospital and pick him up herself." Julian collected the agreement, patted my shoulder with satisfaction. "No need." I pushed Julian's hand away and turned to go upstairs. Behind me, Julian looked at the signature on the agreement, his fingertips inexplicably warm. That night, I saw Julian enter Lydia's room and not emerge until morning. The next day, Lydia's social media post featured a blurry photo of a sonogram. "Finally, I've waited for you, my darling." One photo, like a knife, plunged into my heart. Sitting in my room, I finally made up my mind and dialed a long-forgotten number. The next day, I went downstairs for dinner as usual. As soon as I entered the dining room, I saw Lydia sitting in my seat, sipping the prenatal herbal tonic specially prepared for me. "Sister-in-law, I heard Julian say you agreed to let me raise the child. You truly are a good person." "Oh, I heard Julian gave you 100 million. TSK, you're quite valuable, aren't you?" Her words were barbed, but I ignored them completely. "Get out, that's my seat." Lydia casually set down the soup bowl and slowly stood up. "If hadn't asked me to appease you, do you think I'd willingly step into your unlucky room? You vomited so much during your pregnancy, I wonder if it will affect my baby." Lydia walked around the dining table, her words full of boasts. I ignored her, bending down to sit. "What's this?" Following the sound, I saw her hand pause over the bowl of dark herbal medicine in front of me. "Don't touch that." Lydia's hand trembled, and the fetal protection tonic spilled entirely onto the floor. Immediately after, she clutched her belly and let out a painful shriek. I immediately rang the call bell, nervously watching Lydia lying on the floor. "Oh, my belly, it hurts so much. Clara, why did you push me? I know you don't like me, but how could you harm my child?" Lydia clutched her belly, her face streaked with tears, yet her eyes were fixed on the stairway. My clenched fist relaxed, and I delivered a sharp slap across Lydia's face. The next second, a powerful force from behind knocked me away, and Julian's furious roar exploded above my head. "Clara, I sent Lydia to check on you, and you dared to lay a hand on her?" I turned my head, pointing at the puddle of medicine on the floor. "Julian, are you blind? Look, is this her caring for me, or trying to kill my child?" Julian looked at the mess on the floor, his pupils contracting sharply. He was about to speak when the family doctor rushed in. After an examination, the doctor, with a solemn expression, walked over to Julian and whispered something. The patient was merely startled. "She's fine." The words reached my ears, and I let out a sigh of relief. I slumped to the floor, without the strength to even stand. Clara, don't be like this. Lydia was indeed out of line this time. I will certainly. Julian crouched down, wanting to help me up, uttering hollow reassurances. I didn't move, just calmly uttered a single word, get out. All of you, get out. Julian said a lot, but I didn't hear a single word. The agreement, the money, the child swirled in my mind, then my vision went black, and I completely lost consciousness. When I woke up, Julian wasn't there. Martha sat by my bedside, her well-maintained face filled with undisguised disgust. She never imagined that I, a mere vessel for childbirth in her eyes, would dare to resist. She didn't dare to explode in front of me, so she just coldly asked how I was feeling. We sat in unspoken silence, but the hatred freely festered in the air. Get out. You're not welcome in my room. Julian sent supplements daily, but he never showed his face once. I didn't touch any of them. Half a month later, as I was strolling in the estate gardens, an unfamiliar call came through. Julian's elder brother, Arthur's car accident, might not have been an accident. In that moment, my limbs stiffened to numbness. I didn't even know how I hung up the phone. When signing the divorce papers, my hand trembled so much I could barely hold the pen. Miss Clara, my condolences. The voice on the other end continued, saying that before Arthur's accident, he had a fierce argument with Julian, and the source of the dispute was Lydia. The police's final investigation concluded it was a case of drowsy driving, an accidental death. I frantically called Julian, but his cell phone was always answered by his assistant. When I rushed to Hayes, the secretary at the door, looking troubled, blocked my way. Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Julian's office. Has a guest. I ignored her completely and pushed open the door. In's office, Lydia was sitting barefoot on Julian's lap, her arms wrapped around his neck. Julian, I'm so scared. I didn't mean to push her, but she kept blocking me, and I accidentally. I didn't expect her to react so strongly. The cigar between Julian's fingers had burned down. He sighed and held Lydia even tighter. Lydia, it's over now. Don't be so impulsive again, it hurts me to see you like that. Julian leaned in and kissed her forehead. I've made arrangements. Once the child is born, we'll go overseas and get married. The next second, Julian picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. Keep a close eye on Clara. Once the child is born, quickly dispose of her. I knew who he was calling. It was the Hayes family's fixer, who specialized in handling unsavory matters. After died, this fixer had never been used again. I never expected he would reactivate him, just to kill me. At that moment, the cell phone in my pocket vibrated. Julian, still holding Lydia, glanced towards the door. His dark eyes darkened further, and he walked towards the door. Julian opened the door. The hallway outside was silent. His anxious heart settled. I was hiding in the fire escape stairwell when I answered the unfamiliar call. Miss Clara, someone is already handling the traces you left behind. Your situation is very dangerous. We have arranged a departure time for you. On the phone, Julian's name wasn't mentioned once. But every word reminded me that he intended to kill me. But, do you really think I'm still the Clara you can simply butcher? Okay. The agreed time was 3 days later. I called that person and told him my plan. I received his call back. There was a long silence on his end. I want all the evidence of Julian and Lydia's illicit affair, as well as proof of his murder of his own brother. In 3 days, at the Hayes family banquet, I want to ruin their reputations. All right. Also, contact the Hayes family's elders and ask them if it's time for a change in leadership for the Hayes family. Julian, perhaps you've been in a high position for too long and forgotten who paved the way for you to sit on that throne. Without me back then, you would still be nothing. And I can make you fall from the clouds into the mud at any moment. I emerged from the local hospital alone after my checkup, holding the latest sonogram. Every servant I passed looked at me with sympathy and pity. But only I knew that my heart was already numb, incapable of feeling even a flicker of pain. Julian pulled the car to a steady stop in front of me, parting his lips, but before he could speak, the passenger window lowered, and Lydia's pitiful face peeked out. Sister-in-law, Julian and I came to pick you up and take you home. Lydia had an innocent expression, as if everything that happened before had nothing to do with her. Superficially, it really didn't concern her. I stood outside the car, motionless and silent. Clara, why don't you sit in the back? Lydia isn't feeling well today. Julian's guilty voice grew softer and softer. Without waiting for him to finish, I opened the back door. Lydia flirted with Julian the whole way, while I kept my eyes closed, paying no attention. In the rearview mirror, Julian's gaze repeatedly fell on me. Finally, he spoke in a placating tone, "I've arranged everything for the family banquet. Just rest well at home these next few days. After the banquet, we'll finalize the divorce papers, okay?" I looked into those deep eyes in the rearview mirror and nodded, okay. For some reason, Julian felt uneasy in his heart. In the following days, Julian stayed by my side, airing me with concern and utmost care. Lydia, standing nearby, was green with envy. As for me, I maintained my heart turned to ash demeanor, rarely speaking another word to him. On the day of the family banquet, as soon as I had changed into my evening gown, Lydia blocked me at the door. "You're pregnant, and you're still thinking of dressing up so beautifully? You're so heartless, you won't make a good mother later." I tugged at the corner of my lips and walked around her. "Aren't you just afraid I'll steal your thunder?" "I intend to." Behind me, Lydia's exasperated stomping sounded, but I walked downstairs without looking back. "Madam, to the grand ballroom." In the rearview mirror, Lydia, wearing her white lawn dress, was chasing after me. Outside the grand ballroom, Julian had waited for a long time but still hadn't seen me. The phone connected, and Julian anxiously asked, "Clara, aren't you here yet? Clara, where are you?" I let out a cold laugh. "Your brother is waiting for you in hell." "Oh, and your Lydia, she'll be joining him soon." Heavy breathing came from the other end of the line, followed by the sound of a wine glass shattering. In the grand ballroom, beneath the massive crystal chandelier, elegantly dressed guests mingled. On the large display screen, photos of Julian and Lydia from childhood to adulthood cycled, accompanied by sentimental music. A group of guests gathered around them, offering their congratulations. "Mr. Julian, you truly are a man of deep affection and loyalty. Your elder brother has been gone for so many years, yet you still take such good care of your sister-in-law. Indeed, Ms. Lydia is truly blessed." Lydia nestled into Julian's embrace, smiling shyly. But I knew she was inwardly gloating. After all, she was about to become the rightful Mrs. Hayes. I simply smiled, saying nothing, quietly watching them. She was accepting everyone's compliments like a hostess, when someone behind me kicked her to the ground. "Who are you, people? Don't you know this is a Hayes family banquet? Julian is my fiancé. If he finds out, he'll make sure you suffer a terrible fate." The vast grand ballroom instantly fell silent, leaving only Lydia's screams. With a single glance from me, the person behind her released her scream. The louder the better. "Isn't this more exciting than the live band?" The group of men in black behind me chuckled, and Lydia's face turned pale with fury, tears streaming down her cheeks. "A murder case, a human life. Kneel down and bang your head on the ground 3 times for your dead husband." As the words fell, the man in black pressed her neck, forcing her to bang her head down hard. "If it doesn't make a sound, it doesn't count. Understand?" The man's deep voice carried an unchallengeable authority. Lydia, a hothouse flower, had never seen such a display. She trembled with fear, nodding repeatedly. One after another, Lydia banged her head until her forehead was bleeding. The people behind her were counting. "That's not good enough, no sincerity. Do it again. The sound isn't right. Make her bang her head on the floor tiles." After more than a dozen head bangs, Lydia's forehead was already a bloody mess. The scent of blood on the floor caused a commotion throughout the hall. "Hurry up and bang your head, or we'll send you down to join him." The man in black grabbed her hair, his fierce gaze fixed on her. Lydia cried and continued to bang her head, calling out Julian's name. As she banged her head, I sat at the head table, calmly cutting my steak. The knife and fork scraped against the porcelain plate, creating a grating sound, like an accompaniment to this farce. "Arthur, I brought the person who killed you to atone. Don't worry, I'll make sure they all get the punishment they deserve." Counting sounds came from behind, and Lydia finally couldn't take it anymore, crying as she begged me for mercy. "I was wrong. I truly was wrong, I'll never dare to do it again. Clara, please forgive me, I beg you, let me go." Lydia's face was streaked with blood and tears. I put down my knife and fork, stood up, and looked down at her. "I remember Arthur begged you like this before his car accident. He knelt before you, begging you to turn back, telling you that as uncle and sister-in-law, you couldn't engage in forbidden acts. I remember you smiled and slapped him. I've almost forgotten, which side of his face was it?" Lydia knelt on the floor, her knees also scraped raw and bleeding. She cried and shook her head, repeatedly telling me she was wrong. "Oh, it was the right side." As the words left my lips, I slapped her across the face. She screamed in pain, her body collapsing to the floor and curling into a ball. Hurried footsteps came from outside the door, and Lydia desperately scrambled towards the entrance. Julian, save me." Lydia twisted her body in resistance, her once delicate face now a bloody mess. He certainly can. I raised an eyebrow with a smile. You certainly have faith in him. What a shame. Lydia, even if God himself came today, he couldn't save you. I stood up, signaling with a glance for the men in black to drag her beneath the large display screen. With a snap, I clicked my fingers, and the screen's image instantly changed. Julian, covered in dust from travel, burst into the grand ballroom. Where's Lydia? Where is Lydia? As expected, his first words upon entering were still about Lydia. He was afraid of what I might have done to Lydia. Julian saw the winding bloodstains on the floor, and his heart constricted. His somber gaze met mine. I calmly held his stare and handed him the red wine glass in my hand. Since you're here, have a drink first. Julian then noticed that the large display screen was playing a video of him and Lydia engaging in their illicit affair in his office, the sound clearly audible throughout the entire hall. Clara, today is our Hayes family banquet. Didn't I say that we should settle our matters privately? I didn't answer, staring at the wine glass in his hand. I said, have a drink first. Seeing that I was impervious to reason, Julian could only take the wine glass and drain it. As soon as he put the glass down, he frantically searched the entire hall, but found nothing. Clara, I know you still resent me for using you, but what's done is done. We need to move forward. Are you really going to destroy our 3 years of history over this trivial matter? Julian earnestly tried to persuade me, his hands tightly gripping my wrist. His palm was burning hot, but I only felt a chilling coldness deep in my bones. In his eyes, I was merely a tool to be used. In his eyes, his elder brother's death could be forever concealed, as long as I didn't know about it. In his eyes, it seemed only his love truly mattered. Perhaps it was once, but not anymore. Our 3-year marriage had become a joke the moment I discovered the truth. History? Julian, I told you long ago, between us, there's only a transaction left. Julian's grip on my wrist tightened slightly. He looked into my eyes, disbelief etched on his face. Clara, have you forgotten? You said I was the person you loved most in this life. Clara, can't we just let this go? I will definitely compensate you properly. Julian's eyes were red-rimmed, his voice tinged with pleading. Once upon a time, I also thought I couldn't live without him. Even knowing he had someone else in his heart, I once thought that if he turned back, I could let bygones be bygones. But later, with one incident after another, my heart had long since died. It died during those countless nights when he turned and walked towards another woman. I pointed at the obscene images on the large display screen, looking directly into his eyes. Julian, 5 years ago, the family stepped in to help you through a crisis. Robert personally vouched for you, Daniel even fell out with the board for your sake, and Catherine was so upset she had to be hospitalized. All these years, they've never regretted their initial choice. But what about you? You indulged Lydia in harming me, even murdered your own brother for her, and now you want to use money to silence me. Julian, what makes you think I would ever go back to you? Julian lowered his gaze, staring at the floor, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. You knew everything? Clara, listen, I can explain. The next second, the men in black dragged Lydia out from the corner and pushed her at Julian's feet. The moment Lydia saw Julian, she cried out, Julian, save me. The instant Julian saw Lydia, fury erupted in his eyes. His gaze swept past Lydia, fixing on the man behind me, and he roared in anger. Who told you to touch her? Ethan, I asked you to help me, and this is how you do it? Ethan's hand tightened subtly, signaling Lydia to shut up. Mr. Julian, I apologize. I, Ethan, have always worked for Ms. Clara alone. His deep voice held no emotion. Ethan led several men, who lined up in front of me. Julian, do you think the family helped you all these years because you were the Hayes family heir? Even if you've solidified your position, you should at least use your brain. Hearing this, Julian finally remembered that all these years, every thorny business crisis had been resolved through me, with the family stepping in. And he truly had never directly dealt with Ethan's group. Based on his trust in me, or rather, his exploitation of the family behind me, he had even forgotten that this power was never truly his to control. Julian, don't listen to their nonsense, quickly save me. I'm in so much pain, I want to go home. Lydia, her face streaming with tears, painfully reached out to Julian. Julian's tightly furrowed brows never relaxed. He knew very well that he couldn't rescue Lydia from these men. Moreover, what he cared about now was not saving her. It was the fact that I was actually cutting tea. Yes with him completely. Clara, hiring the fixer was my fault. I shouldn't have been so foolish, so swayed by Lydia. But I truly didn't mean to kill you. Clara, if you're still willing to stay with me, you can do whatever you want with her, okay? I rarely saw Julian so humble and subservient. Before, he was always haughty and self-possessed, with others doing all his dirty work. He never needed to beg anyone, or bow his head. But this time I finally realized that some people will never truly wake up unless they're dragged through the mud. However, Julian's realization came too late. I had long lost any possibility of turning back. Whatever I want to do with her. Julian nodded forcefully, whatever you want to do with her. Lydia heard this and shrieked like a madwoman. Julian, no, she'll kill me. Julian, didn't you promise me you'd always protect me? Julian. No matter how Lydia screamed, Julian's gaze never left me. Then let her keep banging her head. She still has 97 more to go. Count them clearly, not one less. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan pressed Lydia's head down, restarting the count. One thud, then another, the sound of head banging mixed with Lydia's desperate wails. I smiled, looking at Julian. His fists, hanging at his sides, were visibly veined and bulging. Finally, he couldn't hold back. Enough. Stop. Julian rushed to Lydia's side, tightly cradling the disheveled woman in his arms, the heartache in his eyes almost palpable. I had expected it. Normally, if Lydia so much as lost a single hair, Julian would be anxious for hours. Now, seeing her endure such torment, how could he possibly restrain himself? Julian, it's not that I don't want to turn back now. It's you who made your choice. Julian tried to argue, but my next sentence blocked every escape route for him. Too bad, you can't save her today. You're already on the brink of disaster yourself. Do you still have the mind to worry about someone else's fate? Julian didn't understand my words and was about to ask further, but his attention was completely drawn by the synchronized footsteps outside the door. Long time no see, Mr. Julian. The moment Julian saw the arrivals, his entire body stiffened. What are you doing here? Julian stared warily at the man in front of him, but the man didn't even glance at Julian, walking straight to my side. Me? Why, of course, to clean house on behalf of the board. Hayes, second in command, director, with his hands clasped behind his back, swept his gaze over the chaotic grand ballroom. He then walked to me and respectfully gave a slight bow. You're talking nonsense. How could that group of old fogies on the board ever listen to you? Even if they knew about these things, there's no way they'd let an outsider like you interfere in the Hayes family's affairs. Director was Arthur's most trusted subordinate during his lifetime, and also a veteran of Hayes. After died, Julian had ostracized him, causing him to lose almost all his real power. Julian couldn't fathom why he would appear with such a large entourage at a time like this. Julian, I tell you you're foolish, and you don't believe it. Is a mere sister-in-law really worth sacrificing the entire Hayes family for, even risking being branded a fratricide? Do you know? William only chose you back then because he valued the family behind you. Director's words made Julian's face turn ashen. Indeed, he had grown increasingly reliant on the family's influence over the years. That's why he was later so eager to get rid of me, wanting to completely seize control of the Hayes family himself. I was aware of his petty schemes, but I couldn't be bothered to expose them. After all, I knew a man's pride could sometimes be greater than anything. But over time, some people get ahead of themselves and lose sight of their true worth and capabilities. You keep mentioning the family. You wouldn't have been in cahoots all along, would you? Clara, is this the real reason you insisted on divorcing me? Julian's attempt to turn the tables made me laugh in anger. Julian, do you think everyone is as filthy as you? Outwardly, a deep bond between uncle and sister-in-law, but behind closed doors, you were already in bed together. Julian trembled with rage upon hearing this. Clara, you're promiscuous and unfaithful yourself, and you dare try to slander me? Seeing hit a raw nerve and fly into a rage, the man I had loved for 3 years seemed like a clown. Repulsive. Julian, 3 years ago, the family could put you in this position. Today, we can drag you down. What about director? As long as he wants it, I can definitely help him. So what if I have a relationship with him? After all you've done to me, do you think I could ever forgive you? My cold and resolute words, like daggers, pierced Julian's heart. He stood there, unable to utter a single word. Julian. I'm so cold. Lydia in his arms was still trembling, but at this moment, Julian's mind was filled with remorse. The things he had done to me for Lydia's sake truly made his heart pound during his midnight dreams. But he always thought I couldn't leave him, so he continued with a clear conscience. But he forgot, I am human too. I also feel pain, I also get tired, and I also let go completely. Julian, you can't save her today. Just as I finished speaking, a group of uniformed police officers surged in through the door. Lydia, terrified, burrowed tightly into Julian's arms. Julian, I'm scared. Julian was distraught and overwhelmed at this moment. Normally, he found Lydia delicate and endearing, but now he just found her foolish and noisy. If it were me, I would never be like this. Ms. Lydia, we've received a report. The evidence provided by the informant indicates your alleged involvement in a case of premeditated murder. We need you to come with us to assist in the investigation. Julian released his grip. Lydia desperately CLU. Chet at his coat sleeve. Julian, I don't want to go. I didn't kill anyone. I'm not going. Julian, aren't you here to save me? How can you just stand there and watch them take me away? Lydia shrieked and struggled. But the police showed no mercy. With a swift maneuver, they pinned Lydia to the ground, her arms twisted behind her back, and snapped on the cold handcuffs. Even as she was led away, Lydia's cries of Julian's name echoed repeatedly. Julian's gaze, however, lingered only on me and my belly, where his child lay. Clara, I won't interfere with Lydia's affairs anymore. And I won't meddle in anything between you and Director. Can't we just pretend none of this ever happened? I ignored him and instructed Ethan to clear the room. Then I turned and glanced at Director. Let's go. Julian watched our retreating figures, a whirlwind of emotion swirling within him. But he knew that even if he knelt and begged me, I would never look back. What didn't know was that this time, I wasn't just going to make Lydia pay the price. I was truly going to overhaul the family. That same evening, the internet was flooded with scandals about Hayes' CEO, Julian. Reports claimed he was involved in an incestuous affair with his sister-in-law and the murder of his own brother. Hayes' stock price plummeted at market open the next day. Numerous partners, seeking to protect themselves, quickly announced the termination of their contracts with Hayes. Many projects stalled, and Hayes found itself under intense scrutiny. Julian, too, was stripped of all his positions by the board of directors. With the support of the family, Director aggressively took over Hayes and had Arthur's memorial plaque reinstalled in the family mausoleum. The new Mr. Hayes truly has a formidable hand. He actually managed to turn the tide. But isn't the assistant by the new Mr. Hayes' side that young lady from the family? To be fair, Ms. Clara was quite a legend in the business world back then. Amidst the crowd, whispers began to spread, discussing Julian's past and mine. More often, they expressed admiration for my decisive actions. As partners, Director and I quickly stabilized the situation at Hayes. Director's position was far more solid than Julian's ever was. After scandal, I never saw him again. I heard he was completely disowned by the family and stripped of all assets. I also heard he's not doing well at all now, with no place to even live. After Hayes' family's affairs settled, I returned to the family to rest during pregnancy. Director has deep roots within Hayes, he's not as straightforward as he appears. You need to be careful. I stared at Ethan's message for a long time, but in the end, I didn't seek out Director to confirm it. After all, I was the one who approached him first. I was well aware of his capabilities, but any ambitions he harbored were none of my concern. In a partnership, there's no need to delve too deeply. When are you coming back? Should I pick you up? Ethan's messages kept popping up on my phone, and I frowned as I read through each one. I had given myself a long break this time. After resting for a month, I ultimately decided to terminate the pregnancy. Julian doesn't deserve to be a father. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section, so feel free to share your perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.